Story time, guys. True story. A couple years ago, I was in Bangkok, Thailand. I went out there for a speaking engagement. It was an amazing trip. I had an amazing time. I was invited to come speak, and now, in my usual style, when I go out of my comfort zone, out of my country, out of my town, wherever it is, to go speak or do anything or for work, I typically would be the kind of person who would do my thing, go back to my hotel room and chill and relax. I don't consider myself a super adventurous person. Matter of fact, who am I kidding? I am not adventurous. I am not adventurous at all. So after the week-long event, every single day I'll go back to my hotel room and I'll chill. I'll hang out with myself. I'll catch up on work. I'll call my husband and my son, catch up with them. And I did this consistently every single day. But whenever I go back to the conference the next day, I hear other people. There were other speakers who were invited from the US and Canada and all those different parts of the world as well. And I'd hear them talk about how, we went here, we explored this town, we went to this place, went to that. And I'm like, yo, and I came all the way to Thailand to sleep. Yo, I got to do better. So I remember one of these days I'd gone out with them, with the crew. And that was interesting. So the next day I decided, I have a little bit more confidence. I can flex my muscle a little bit. Let me go out some more and see what this boisterous city of Bangkok is like. So I remember going out one of these days by myself, just going to all the local vendors, trying local food. God helped me. Just trying, I'm not super adventurous with food or anything, but just buying local stuff and just flexing. And I'm walking around the streets, making sure I'm not losing track of where my hotel is, because, no phone service is working. I don't know nobody. I do this. I take a walk, mark my territory properly, do touristy things, do selfies and all that good stuff. And then while I'm working, I see like a ring where people are fighting, not like fighting as in giving blows, but like professional fights, like the UFC, and they're fighting and doing all this wrestling match. It was a wrestling match, basically. It was a game, and that was very intriguing to me. So I stopped by and I started paying attention, and there was a crowd of people just outside the ring cheering for their favorite. And I joined in and I cheered, and I remember spending a long time there, just paying attention to the fight and to the fighters and how things went. And I don't know if it was jiu-jitsu, but it wasn't exactly like the usual American UFC that we're familiar with. It was like a ground fight, but it wasn't wrestling. I don't know what it was called. I don't remember what it was called anyways. It wasn't taekwondo either. Anyways, but I noticed that when they'll bring in a new fighter like on stage to say, okay, now we have a new match. Each of the games were like maybe 5 minutes long or something like that. They'll bring a new fighter, and while the person was coming in, I don't know why this was even interesting for me to do, to be honest. I can't explain why. But while the person would come out, I'll look at them and I'll look at the competitor and I'll take a look, and in like 30 seconds, I knew who was going to win the game. This happened the first time, and the person I thought was going to win won. Happened the second time, happened the third time. With every different set of fighters that came in, I somehow was able to pinpoint who was going to win. This had nothing to do with how they looked. It had nothing to do with their energy levels. It had nothing to do with the usual stuff, like looking at a person physically. I just would be able to look at them and see through them just by looking at them and going, no, that one's gonna win. This one's not gonna win. And I must have watched about 20 matches that day. And I believe I had 18 out of 20 right. I predicted correctly the winners of the game 18 out of 20 times. I thought nothing of this experience. I went to my hotel room feeling like, okay, that's interesting. Fast forward a couple years later. This was maybe about, Thailand happened maybe about 7 years ago. Fast forward a couple years later, I'm starting to put 1 and 2 together. Before an Amazon driver pulls over on my door, I know that there's someone at my door. Before something happens, before someone calls me, I know they're going to call me. I know a few things here and there. And you hear about people having these, like, they say things like, I had an instinct, or I had a hunch, or, I suspected, something said to me. And this happened over and over and over again until I started to explore my prophetic gift. And I was having a conversation with the Holy Spirit the other day that I wanted to expose you to. And the conversation basically went like this. Like, how do we know from a very young age? Most of us have serious spiritual gift, amazing spiritual gift, but a lot of times it wasn't explored, it wasn't followed up with. Our parents did nothing about it, we did nothing about it. And so some of us are having to start super late or not even start at all, because you're looking at yourself in your 30s and you're going, oh my God, I think I have this, but I don't have the time to explore it, or I am not sure. Or some people in your 40s and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I started thinking about how we can be better stewards of our children's gifts that we got from our parents. And one of the things that crossed my mind was, is it possible that when I was able to accurately and correctly predict 18 out of 20 matches, is it possible, okay, I'm asking this question, is it possible that that may have just been an inkling of a prophetic gift? Is it possible that I thought that I was guessing, intellectually guessing, but really what I was doing was just listening to that small, still voice, that small, still thought, the saying, this is the winner, this is how it's going to go, this is how, and that may be having tied to having the gift of prophecy. That's just an example for myself. The other thing is, now when I find myself in rooms and groups, I'm usually the one who's questioning, why are we doing it this way? What's the purpose of it? I'm usually the one who's helping people break down the complex ideas into like simple forms that folks can digest. I'm usually the one who's like collecting the notes, typing the notes, making people just see breaking the big vision down into like tiny little concepts in a way that is digestible to folks. Reiterating, going over stuff that's been gone over before. But I remember correctly being younger, and people would say to me, can you drop this? Can you stop going on and on about something that we've concluded? And it was seen as a vice. It was seen as, you don't let go easily, or we're done, we've moved on. Can you drop it? But in retrospect, if this gift had been properly stewarded or identified, this was me attempting to break down complex ideas, to break down chunky information, to break down everything that I receive, and my brain just processes as a to-do list, as here's what you got to do, as a call to action. Everything in my mind, everything I listen to is processed as a call to action. Do you know what I mean? And now I think about how I am now a coach. I have some degree of prophetic gift, and all these things that I'm using now. I have a knack to write. I'm a good writer. I'm a good speaker, and all those gifts that are now manifesting, or started manifesting in my adulthood, if they had been properly stewarded, I may have had less moments of questioning myself. I may have had less moments of going, does this even make sense? Am I being too much? Am I being too extra? Am I not agreeing to drop something when everyone has moved on? But this, in fact, was a gift. This, in fact, was a scribing gift, was a gift of prophecy, was a gift of speaking, was a gift of digesting complex information, was a gift of business analysis, was a gift of coaching, was a gift of empathy and nurture. So the call to action here, of course, the call to action here is, there is nothing that God gives us that is wasted. There is no gift that God gives to us that is useless, that is redundant, that is, we don't even know if she's ever going to use this one. Every single gift that God gives you must be accounted for, because it will be used for His glory. Your call to action here is, take count for all the gifts that you've been given, no matter how tiny they are, no matter how insignificant it seems. And you've gotten a compliment before, you've gotten a complaint before, because it's not just compliments. That's the thing. We think it's just when people say, oh, you're a really good speaker, you're a really good writer. No, sometimes people would say things like, you are an overthinker, but what's God wanting to do with that skill? It could be that you're meticulous, you're detailed, you're thorough, you are not someone who easily makes mistakes. Or when people say things like, you keep arguing, maybe you're one person who likes to see justice and fairness and equity in the world. So my call to action for you here is, Take stock of everything that God has given you, because it will come in handy, and he wants to use it, not right now. Because right now, when we say will come in handy, it always seems like it's in the future. We would use it in the future, or God is going to use this. God is using you right now, but your failure to acknowledge that you have these gifts that are useful and that are helpful is what's stopping you from allowing yourself to being used on a bigger scale. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? So I want you to take stock of everything that God is giving you. And I want you to say, dear Lord, dear Holy Spirit, I am here. Use this for your glory. I give this back to you. This is what it means to surrender all. Everything, all that we are, all that we have become, all that he's given to us really belongs to him. And we give it back to him for his use, for his glory, for his kingdom. So what are those similarly small gifts, snarky little comments that people have made about you that you can use for God's kingdom? Go and shine, go and thrive, go and prosper. Take note of it and start to use them to build. Use it as a building block, because it fits somewhere. Fits like a puzzle somewhere. Some assignment that God is giving you, something that he's handed over to you. It fits right in. Alrighty, that's everything for me today. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and like and comment. Tell me what your thoughts are about this video. Share with someone who may want it and who may need it. I love you so much. God bless you. Make sure you speak to the Holy Spirit today. Bye.